Let me ask you this. I know we just spoke on Tyler Perry just a moment ago, and he does have his own studio and things of that nature, and can put out his own films. Overall, do you think he's more help or harm to the Black community overall?
I think he's more harm. And I like some of his plays and things of that nature. Um, but I think it's more harm whenever you have that type of influence that he has, and the type of capital, the type of control that he has, and so he puts out the same exact movies. It becomes for you to recognize that this is purposeful. This is on purpose. Like, so what is your motive behind putting out these type of movies where you stereotype the black man as to be this kind of thug or bad villain individual? And then you look into his past. He has daddy issues. He's spoken numerous of times about his dad molested him, his dad beat him. So he grew up, that's what he knew. Right? His mom needs saving, yada yada yada, which you see in his films. Right? That's his films. And so he perpetrates that into the community, which feeds into his biggest consumers and supporters, which are black women. And some can argue no one hates a black man more than a black one. No one hates a black man more than a black woman.
Talk about it.
You can make that argument. And I can say this. Watch how a black woman acts around a white man versus a black man.
Hmm. So you're saying the respect is there?
Just the common courtesy, respect. Most black men can't even approach a black woman without being disrespected.
And just to add to what you're saying, man, even like if you dig back into Tyler Perry's past, and yes, his father was, abusive and things of that nature. But come to find out, his father wasn't really his father.
That shows up in his films too.
And so the root of the one that raised him, the anger comes from raising a child that wasn't yours, because your
Well,
wife,
mom,
my
mhm.
wife, decided to step out a one night stand, and I'm still raising a child that's not mine.
I'm gonna give y'all a true story. Me and my wife, we hadn't been dating that long at the time. Maybe been dating maybe a year or two. Maybe probably a couple of years. And she wanted to see the For Color Girls. It had just come out.
Mm.
And they was broadcasting everywhere. Janet Jackson's in there. They got all these people that are in there. All these well-known, black, entertainers. And, I was like, I'm not a big movie person anyway, but I was like, man, I don't know, man. It look kind of sketchy. For Color Girls. Like, what does that mean? Like, and so I hadn't seen no previews and then, and so we show up to the movie, we end up going. And this, mainly couples that are going in there. So you see guys going in there with their ladies and things of that nature. Man, we go into this movie. It was so quiet in this movie theater because of the abuse that black men felt watching this film. Every one of those ladies in that movie was being abused, and they labeled every black individual in there as some crazy individual. Either he was a rapist, he was a murderer, he was something crazy. And when I tell you that movie went off, no one was talking, walking out. when I say nobody, like couples wasn't talking amongst each other. No one said nothing. It was almost a state of shock. And I know it was for guys, as you know, walking in there, and it was predominantly black guys. I don't even remember seeing anybody white in there. And I get to the car, and I'm just kind of like, "What in the world was that?" Like, and my wife now, but she's my girlfriend. Then looked at me and said, "I'm sorry. I'm sorry for making you come see that. That was a disgrace. That was a disgrace for black men to ever be painted in that light."
Let me ask you this. Would you consider that the modern day version of The Color Purple? I never seen it, but I never seen For Colored Girls, but would you kind of put it along those same lines?
Every black man in there was a terrible individual.
Wow.
Like, it was one of those movies where, like, there wasn't any decent black man in that movie.
That's tough.
Like, it was wicked. Like, it was like, oh my gosh. And then the movie ends with all the ladies who went through all this abuse from all these different black men are sitting on the roof holding each other, crying. I don't even laugh. Well, I'm sitting there like, sitting there looking
They're
like
like some waiting to exhale stuff there, man.
it was worse than that. It was worse than that. I'm talking about you have the worst of the worst that you could ever be painted.
That's
a
crazy.
rapist, murderer, like things that you just don't want to be ever labeled as. Like, and you see all these black guys, it's like, and you always wonder too, how come there no white men in here? How come we the only victims? And then when he do paint a woman as a victim, it's in a way that somebody pushed her to be a victim. Somebody pushed her to be crazy,
Acrimony.
or if not push her to be crazy, it's somehow gonna work out for the good of them in the end. Like, not easily broken. Like, it just somehow works out at the end. She crazy throughout the whole movie.
Disrespectful.
But then she gets it works out for her. She gets her husband. But for the men, it's like she better run and get away from him the whole movie, and it ain't no good ending. It's like, and that's what I'm saying. Like, that was just like an example of a real life situation where I experienced like going to see a movie, and it was just like I just couldn't believe, and other guys in there just couldn't believe it, and we just all sitting there like, what in the world did we just watch? like these are like these individuals. I don't know none of these individuals. Like the stuff you got these individuals doing on here.
I'm glad I never seen it.
I'm like, and I just did not think that this was going to be anything like this. I don't know what I thought it was going to be, but I didn't think it was going to be anything like that. I thought it might be, for color girl, maybe it's girls. I obviously thought I knew it was going to be like a chick flick, but I thought maybe they was going to be going through some things or whatever, and in and out of relationship, just the typical stuff. I didn't think it was going to be. I mean, it was brutal. I mean, you got to try to rape people in the middle of the apartment. You have this thing where you see this movie, and then at the time I was young at the time, but now you see more and more of this. this thing being perpetuated against black men, and it's just like now that you have black men actually stepping up and talking about this and talking about the negativity that's surrounding it, now it's receiving backlash, like almost like, who y'all think y'all are to say anything about this? It's like, wait a minute, like let's have some accountability here, man. Like,
oh, stop that.
for our actions.
Stop that. Come on, man.
Like, if I get with somebody that's bad, like, I need to have accountability for that. I chose that.
Stop that, man. Stop that. You come on, man.
Like, I've had some bad girlfriends.
Me too.
I never once said, man, she did that. I said, man, I shouldn't have been. I had no business with her. I never once, been like, man, she did this, man, she did that. I'm like, man, I shouldn't even been with her. I don't even know what I was thinking. I wasn't thinking.
But and then not only that, man, you did the Magic Johnson. I ain't gonna be that.
I ain't gonna be that. Man, you just you do that, man. Like, but we've all had bad relationships or been in bad relationships. And as guys, I know, a lot of guys, you look at him and be like, man, shorty crazy. I don't need to be with her.
Facts.
And you take that accountability and you're supposed to learn from it so that you don't end up going through the same situation. But the only way that you can learn from it is if you take accountability for it and be like, that's on me. Reason why a lot of women go through the same cycle of bad men is because you don't take accountability for the bad men you've been with. Like, you made a choice to lay down with that brother.
Facts.
But if you take accountability and be like, you know what? I ain't had no business being with dude, and I don't need to do that no more. I guarantee you're gonna be looking out for that. Like, those characteristics, I'm like,
Yep.
But you don't think you did nothing wrong, so you ain't looking out for nothing.
That's a fact, man.